The story for day 8 is flexibility. And we hit Juneau for our 8th day on our Vancouver and Alaska trip. As we came into Juneau, there was a ton of fog, and we had heard earlier that because our excursion was dog sledding by helicopter, it was one we had booked outside of the cruise line, that if it was really foggy by the glacier, they can't land the helicopter and they cancel the excursion. And that's what ended up happening to us today. So we toured the town for a bit, and we were able to get into a different excursion that had a shuttle that took us to Mendenhall Glacier and then was going to pick us up from Mendenhall Glacier and take us on a humpback whale watching cruise. So we still had a great time and saw some really awesome things, and we'll have to come back another time to do dog sledding. One note is we heard on the ship that people who went dog sledding in the afternoon on the glacier were actually able to go. So it's really just depends on what happens right when you're supposed to be leaving, I guess. I will note that we did book it outside and we did get a full refund for our trip. It ended up being, we had booked it way in advance, so we ended up getting a check in the mail when we got home, and it came very quickly. This picture is taken over by the Visitor Center at Mendenhall Glacier, and one thing that we learned when we were there is that in the 60s, when the Visitor Center was built, the glacier extended all the way down to right below the Visitor Center, and now you can kind of physically see how much it's receded since that time. All of this in these pictures used to be the glacier when they first built the Visitor Center. We took some time to hike and hiked a short trail down to the base of the waterfall that's in front of the glacier, and gives you a better view of the glacier. You can see the waterfall. We got some of these great pictures from there. Then we came back and still had some time, so we hiked down to a lookout area they had where it's near some terns that are nesting and just a different view of the glacier, and you can get a good view of some of the icebergs floating out that have broken off from the glacier. Ever since they were very little, my boys have gotten junior ranger badges at almost every park we've gone to. My oldest felt like he was too old this time, but my youngest still did it and got his Mendenhall Glacier patch. Usually you get a patch or a pin. Most of the time it's a pin, but at Yellowstone in here it's a patch. And this is his ceremony.
Mendenhall Glacier. My community, in the air. I will explore the natural world, and discover other cultures, wherever I go. All right, congratulations! Woo!
Next up was humpback whale watching. We saw 4. We saw one right away, Sasha, who was alone and swimming through, and we watched her for a while, and then we headed out and eventually found a mama named Flame and her baby, Bunsen, and then another male, but they didn't know who he was. He never put his tail out of the water, so they couldn't identify him. The backs of the humpback's tails are like fingerprints. No two are alike, so when they can see the back of their tail, they can tell which whale it is. All in all, this was a really fun cruise. Lots of good scenery, but most of the time we spent watching the whales. And we could see whales, as you can see from the various plumes of water coming up in these videos, as well as the sightings of the whales themselves. Most of the time we could see the whales while we were on the cruise. There was a short time while we were going back to Juneau that we didn't see any at all, but it was relatively short compared to the amount of time that we saw the other 4 whales that we saw. I would really recommend this cruise just because it's a nice, relatively short cruise compared to some of the other wildlife sighting cruises we went on, but we still saw a lot of things, and our guides were very knowledgeable. And again, we booked this one at the base of the Mount Roberts tram. One of the kiosks there was actually the furthest kiosk over on the left, and it was kind of a last minute thing because our helicopter tour got canceled, as we'd mentioned earlier, and turned out pretty well considering. We sighted some more glaciers up in the hills, saw a fish cleaning station on the way out, and of course lots and lots of eagles, including one right on the way off the dock. They are everywhere. When we got back on the boat, we took in another naturalist session about ice fields and glaciers, getting ready for our visit tomorrow to Hubbard, and dinner at Triton's. So Sam had yet another round of escargot, his favorite, and they came by and treated us to some champagne because they forgot to celebrate my birthday the night before, and so we celebrated my birthday again. My husband and I hung out in the Cadillac Lounge a little bit. I think that might be my favorite lounge on all of the ships. And then did some picture things to round out our day. Next up, it will be day 9, where we visited the Hubbard Glacier, which has to be my favorite day of the entire trip. So until next time, thanks for watching.